The rain started just after sunset, soft at first, like fingers tapping gently on the windows. But by the time the power flickered for the second time, it had turned into something heavier, angrier, like the sky itself was trying to break into the house. You had decided to stay home alone that night. Your parents were out of town, your phone battery was barely holding on, and the silence between thunderclaps felt too deep, too unnatural. At first, it was peaceful, the kind of quiet that lets you hear your own breathing. But then you noticed something strange, the sound of footsteps upstairs. Slow, careful, not loud enough to be obvious, but just enough to make your chest tighten. You froze on the couch, remote still in your hand. The TV screen flickered, casting pale blue light across the living room. The footsteps stopped the moment you listened too closely. You told yourself it was the house settling. Old wood, rain, wind. That's what people always say. But then, it started again. One step. Pause. Another step. As if someone was walking barefoot across the hallway above you. You grabbed your phone and turned on the flashlight, pointing it toward the staircase. The beam trembled slightly, not because of the phone, but because your hand wouldn't stop shaking. You called out, your voice quieter than you expected. Hello? Nothing. Just rain. And then, tap. Not upstairs. Right behind you. You spun around, the flashlight cutting through the darkness, illuminating the glass back door. Rainwater streamed down it in thick lines, distorting the outside world. But through that distortion, you could see something, or someone, standing just beyond the glass. A shape, tall, still, watching. Your breath caught in your throat. The light flickered again. For half a second, everything went dark. And when the light came back, the figure was gone. You rushed to the door, heart pounding, pressing your face close to the cold glass. Nothing. Just the backyard, soaked and empty. No footprints, no movement, no sign that anyone had ever been there. Then your phone rang. The sudden sound made you jump so hard you almost dropped it. The screen lit up with an unknown number. For a moment you hesitated. Then you answered. Hello? At first, there was only static. Then a voice, low, distorted, whispering. Don't look upstairs. The call ended. Your stomach dropped. Slowly, against every instinct screaming at you to run, you turned your head toward the staircase. The darkness above seemed thicker now, heavier, like it was alive. And then you heard it again. Footsteps. But this time, they weren't upstairs. They were coming down. Step. 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 You backed away, your flashlight beam locked onto the staircase. The sound was unmistakable now. Something was descending slowly, deliberately, as if it knew you were watching, as if it wanted you to watch. Halfway down, the steps stopped. Silence swallowed the house. Even the rain seemed distant now. Then your phone buzzed again. Same number. You answered without thinking. Why did you look? The voice was closer this time, clearer, not coming from the phone, from behind you. You turned too slowly, and the flashlight flickered one last time before going out completely. The next morning, the neighbors said the storm had knocked out power across the entire street. They said they heard nothing unusual, no screams, no calls for help. But when your parents returned, they found the house exactly as you left it, except for one thing. At the bottom of the staircase, there were wet footprints, leading up. The rain had been falling since late afternoon, but by nightfall, it had turned relentless. Thick sheets of water slamming against the roof, overflowing the gutters, dripping endlessly from every edge of the house. The kind of rain that makes the outside world disappear. No cars, no people, no distant lights, just darkness and sound. You weren't supposed to be alone that night. Your older brother had promised he'd be back before dark, but his last message came hours ago. Stuck. Don't wait up. That was it. No calls after, no replies. Eventually, your phone lost signal entirely, leaving you with nothing but a dim battery icon and the quiet glow of your screen. At first, you tried to distract yourself. You made some tea, sat by the window, watched the rain blur the garden into a shapeless shadow. Every now and then, lightning would flash, briefly revealing the trees bending unnaturally in the wind. You told yourself everything was normal. Just a storm, just a night alone. But then, the landline rang. You hadn't heard that phone ring in years. No one used it anymore. It sat on a small table in the hallway, dusty, forgotten. Until now. The sound cut through the house sharply, loud, sudden, unnatural. You stared at it from the living room, your body refusing to move at first. It rang again, and again, each ring echoing through the empty walls. Slowly, you stood up and walked toward it. The closer you got, the louder it seemed, like it wasn't just ringing in the hallway, but inside your head. You picked it up. Hello? At first, nothing, just the faint hum of the line. Then, breathing, soft, slow, deliberate. You frowned, your grip tightening on the receiver. Hello? Who is this? A pause. Then, a voice. Your voice. Why didn't you lock the back door? Your heart skipped. What? Where are you? You said you were... The line crackled violently. The voice cut out mid-sentence. Silence returned. You pulled the phone away slowly, staring at it. That didn't make sense. He couldn't have called from the landline. He wasn't even home. Were you sure you locked the back door? You turned toward the kitchen. The hallway felt longer now, darker than before. The lights flickered faintly, reacting to the storm. Every step you took seemed louder than it should. When you reached the kitchen, you stopped. The back door was slightly open. Not wide, just enough for the wind to push it back and forth, creating a soft creaking sound. You felt a cold rush of air against your skin. Rain droplets had blown inside, leaving small dark spots across the floor. I locked this, you whispered to yourself. You stepped forward and pushed the door shut firmly, sliding the lock into place. Your hand lingered on it for a moment, just to be sure. Then, you heard it. A faint sound. Not from outside, from somewhere deeper in the house. A voice. Hello? It was your voice. You froze. The sound had come from the living room. Slowly, almost mechanically, you turned around and walked back. Each step felt heavier than it should. The rain grew louder again, pounding against the windows, masking everything except that lingering echo in your mind. When you reached the living room, the air felt wrong, thicker, warmer, and the landline was off the hook, swinging gently, as if someone had just put it down. Your chest tightened. You were sure, absolutely sure you had placed it properly before walking away. Hello? The voice came again. Your voice. But this time, it came from upstairs, from your bedroom. You backed away slowly, shaking your head. No, no, no! The stairs creaked softly, as if reacting to your fear, or something moving across them. Come up, the voice called. You could hear it clearly now, calm, familiar, but wrong in a way you couldn't explain, like hearing a recording that wasn't quite human. Your eyes locked onto the staircase. The lights flickered again, once, twice, then stayed off. Darkness swallowed everything, except the sound. Footsteps, upstairs, moving slowly across your room, then stopping right above you. The rain softened slightly,
just enough for you to hear something else. Breathing. Not yours. Right behind you. You spun around, but there was nothing there. When you turned back toward the stairs, something was standing at the top. A silhouette, still, watching. Lightning flashed. For a split second, you saw its face. It was you, smiling, but the smile stretched too wide, too far, as if it didn't understand how human expressions worked. "Come up," it whispered again. But this time, it didn't open its mouth. The next morning, when your brother finally returned, the storm had already passed. The house was quiet again, still, normal. He called your name, expecting you to answer, but you didn't. Instead, he found the landline receiver hanging loosely, swaying slightly, as if disturbed just moments ago. And from upstairs, he heard your voice. "Hello?"
By the time the rain started, you had already decided you wouldn't sleep. Not because you were scared, at least that's what you told yourself, but because the house felt different that night. Not empty, not quiet, just occupied in a way you couldn't explain. It had been a long day. Power cuts, weak signal, endless gray clouds stretching across the sky. By evening, everything outside had faded into a dull blur. When the first drops of rain hit the roof, it almost felt comforting, predictable, familiar. You locked every door before sunset, checked every window twice, even laughed at yourself while doing it. "Why am I acting like this?" you muttered. Because deep down, you already knew something wasn't right. The house was old, but not that old. Still, it had its sounds. Pipes clicking, wood settling, occasional creaks in the ceiling. You were used to those. You had grown up here. But that night, the sounds didn't follow their usual patterns. At around 9 p.m., while you were sitting in your room scrolling through your phone, you heard something fall in the kitchen. Not loud, just a soft, dull thud, like something small slipping off a counter. You froze for a second, listening. Nothing followed. "No big deal," you whispered, forcing yourself to relax. "Probably just a cup or something." You stayed in your room for another 10 minutes, trying to ignore it, but curiosity and something else you didn't want to name pulled you out. The hallway was darker than usual. Only one light was on downstairs, casting long shadows up the staircase. The rain had picked up now, drumming steadily against the roof, echoing faintly through the walls. You walked down slowly, your footsteps quiet but heavy in your ears. The kitchen light was on. You were sure you had turned it off earlier. You stepped inside. Nothing looked out of place. The counters were clean, no broken cups, no fallen objects. Everything exactly where it should be. Except the back window was open. Just slightly. Enough for the wind to push the curtain inward, making it sway gently. You frowned. You knew you had locked that. As you stepped closer to close it, a sudden gust of wind pushed the curtain harder, brushing against your arm. You flinched, instinctively pulling back. And that's when you noticed it. On the floor, wet footprints. Not leading to the window, leading away from it. Your breath caught. They moved across the kitchen tiles, then disappeared into the hallway. Your first instinct was to run, lock yourself in your room, pretend none of this was happening. But instead, you followed them. Each step felt heavier than the last. Your heart pounded so loud it almost drowned out the rain. The footprints led down the hallway, stopping just before the living room. And then, nothing. They simply ended, as if whoever made them had vanished into thin air. You stood there, staring at the last mark on the floor, trying to make sense of it, trying to convince yourself there had to be a logical explanation. Then, the TV turned on. The sudden burst of light made you jump. Static filled the screen, loud, harsh, overwhelming. You hadn't touched the remote. You slowly stepped into the living room. The static flickered, then changed. For a moment, it looked like random shapes, noise. Then it shifted, forming something clearer. A room. Your room. The angle was wrong, too high, as if the camera was in the corner of the ceiling. Your stomach dropped. You stared at the screen, unable to move. The image showed your bedroom exactly as you had left it. The bed, the chair, the dim light still on. And then, movement. Something stepped into the frame. Slowly, carefully. It was you. Or at least it looked like you. Same clothes, same face, same posture. But something about it felt off. The way it moved, too smooth, too controlled, like it was copying what a human should look like. On the screen, the figure walked to your bed and sat down, then turned its head and looked directly at the camera, at you. The TV crackled loudly, the image distorted. Then the figure spoke. "You shouldn't have come down." The voice didn't come from the TV. It came from behind you. You turned slowly, and there it was, standing in the doorway, close enough that you could see every detail now. Your face, your eyes, your expression. But the smile, that same unnatural, stretched smile. "Now I know where you are," it said. The lights went out instantly. Darkness swallowed the room whole. The TV shut off. The rain roared louder than ever. You tried to move, but something grabbed your wrist, tight, cold. You struggled, but the grip only tightened. And then, silence. The next morning, the storm had passed completely. The sun rose like nothing had happened. Neighbors went about their day as usual. Cars passed, birds returned. Everything felt normal again. Until someone noticed your front door slightly open. When they stepped inside, the house looked untouched. No signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no mess. Just quiet. Too quiet. And in the living room, the TV was on, showing a live feed of the empty house from the corner of the ceiling.